Time is just gone 12 minutes past 9 a.m. on the second half of News and Views this morning on Salam Media. As we continue in the company of our Salam Media listeners and our viewers, we also welcome One Nation 88.9 FM out of Polokwane to the show. We trust and hope that you are going to have a beautiful Jummah, inshallah, a Jummah filled with the blessings and the mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Let us not forget to recite Surah Kahf on this day and also abundant durood on our beloved Master Nabi Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam. Now, from time to time, we get people in within our societies that make a huge impact, that make their mark, that leave their footprints in the sands of time. And this is exactly what we are talking about this morning. We are remembering the people's doctor, Marhoom, Dr. Abubaker Asvat, rahimahumullah. And he is not forgotten because this is a man that has made a huge impact, a person of honor, a person of courage, a person of upright standing, alhamdulillah, and contributed just so much to his community and to the country at large. And this is the reason why we are remembering him today, this morning, with Brother Ali Osmany, who is a board member and media spokesperson of the Abubaker Asvat Institute. Brother Ali Osmani, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Juma Mubarak, welcome and Jazakallah for taking time out with us this morning on Salam Media.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. To you and to your listeners, also Jummah Mubarak to everybody listening in. On behalf of the Abu Azrat Institute for Nation Building, I really want to thank you for allowing us the time to come on air. Shukr alhamdulillah.
Yes, Abu Bakr Asbat Rahimahumullah, Dr. Abu Bakr. And today we are remembering him, we are honoring him once again. And one not cannot forget what he actually meant to the country, what he meant to the community. This was a man who was known as the people's doctor, Brother Ali.
That's correct, yes. I'll just quickly show the viewers this book here, which is a book published by the Abubaker Asvat Institute for Nation Building. If one needs to read accurately about who this man was and the stature that he carried, this book is available from the Institute. Excuse me. You can contact us at any time for copies of this book. It gives you a very valuable insight into who this personality really was and the kind of difference that he made in the lives of many, many hundreds of thousands of people all across the country.
Well, certainly, and I'm sure it is worth getting our hands on the book. But let us just take us through why today Dr. Abu Bakr Asbat Rahimahumullah is so relevant and why he needs to be remembered.
I will tell you, I will read you a very small extract from this book, which I think paints a very clear picture of where we are. We as a nation still have a very long way to go. As a population, we are still impoverished, exploited, and abused. We are still stereotyped by the color of our skins, our ancestry, our gender, and sex. The apartheid fallacy of different races continues to be perpetuated by those in power. Liberation is far from being achieved. This time around, to our abiding shame, we are betrayed and conned by the very leaders and organizations that claim to be fighting for our liberation. Now more than ever is the time for critical thinking, principled action, and standing up for the rights of downtrodden and exploited people in our country. Close quote. I am quite sure that listeners can understand and have a feeling about what's just been expressed. Have we really moved as a country from the time that Dr. Abu Bakr Asvat walked this earth? We are in more serious trouble today than we were at the time when Dr. Asvat was busy making his mark, busy making his volunteerism and his sacrifices to uplift the people of this country. That struggle, in many ways, more than one, is something that is tangible, something that we can tie to. And we must not forget for any one given moment and believe that we've been fully liberated. Look at the struggles that our communities are facing today. Just this morning, I had word of somebody coming from a place called Makwasi in the northwest. I mean, a place called Makwasi in the northwest is like a forgotten entity. That's not all. There's a place well known to others like Christiana in Warrenton, where they haven't had water for weeks and weeks on end. How do people survive? I mean, surely the state of our nation today is in crisis. And what are the authorities really doing apart from capturing the state and filling their pockets and taking on uh, proud mantles of being representatives of the vast population and impoverished people of this country? Not one of the political parties today, I'm afraid, are actually in a position where they are effectively delivering to the people of this country the kind of services that they actually deserve and the kind of dignity that they actually deserve. The undignified situation in which people find themselves, excuse me, is something to be lamented. One needs to count the rate of unemployment, the degree of poverty that people are struggling with. All these are hardships which the government itself is largely to blame for, because it has taken the population for granted. It has more than ever invaded the space of those people that oppressed us before. So while the oppressors from the National Party and the apartheid government might well appear to have been confined to the dustbins of history, that is not the reality as we see it now. The oppressors are still there in a different guise, and they still oppress the impoverished people of this country. And I'm afraid that unless we, the rest of the ordinary people in our society, don't get together, stand together, united as a force, and confront the realities that face us today, we will largely be held responsible for not being able to change and make a difference to the lives of these people.
Yes, and it is clear, Ali, the Dr. Abubakar Asvat made a difference to the lives of people in more ways than one. Whether he provided health care, whether it was a domestic worker, his involvement through cricket, where he stood up against the apartheid government, and even people like Dr. Ali Bacher, and he came up against very, very powerful people, but in the face of all this adversity, and where people's dignity was trampled upon, and this is exactly what you are saying at this point in time, with the present situation that we find ourselves in, people's dignity is being trampled upon. We see poverty, we see mass starvation that we have never ever seen in the history of the country. Now, these are all the principles that Dr. Abu Bakr Aswat felt very, very strongly about, and this is exactly what he stood for, and this is the reason why he needs to be remembered and honored in the manner that we are honoring him today.
Quite clearly, I am particularly thankful to the Azapo organization and the Black Consciousness Movement, who have not forgotten each year to pay a visit to the cemetery where they lay a wreath, and they actually remember this great giant of a man who made an immense contribution to our country, improving the lives of the poor. If one looks at the state of health in our country today, we are in a serious problem. The ordinary clinics are unable to cope. At a time when it was necessary, Dr. Aswat, with a group of very dedicated and very principled medical assistants, nurses, and some professional doctors, where they established clinics in many impoverished areas in the country. I have to take a step back and say Dr. Aswat started the health project in a little place called Chicken Farm in Soweto, a very, very, very impoverished area, before he established his surgery in Rockville in Soweto, where he was unfortunately assassinated uh, in the prime of his life. Now, if one thinks about how he managed, I mean, it was quite simple. He had such a stature that he could go out to people and say, look, we need help. There are people here that require assistance. Are you able to give us your assistance? And just because of the person he was, the smile on his face, the warm heartedness, a lot of people gave him their time and joined him in this effort. It was not very strange to find Aswat suddenly in the dead of night receiving a phone call to travel 50 or 60 kilometers or even 100 kilometers out of lands, where the call came that there's been a storm, there's been floods, or there are people that are affected here because of a breakout of diarrhea or something. And we need some intervention here. It was people like Aswat and the group of volunteers that got together in the dead of night, and they would load up his trailer with medical supplies, whichever was available, and they would motor out and feed the needs of these people. Today, as we stand, I'm very pleased agreement with the Abu Aswat Institute, and it's a credit to Islam, to the Islamic Medical Association, that a lot of the work that was done by Abubaker Asvat is being done by the volunteerism of the Islamic Medical Association, and we need to commend them for taking this step and going out to all the impoverished areas with mobile clinics and qualified volunteers to administer community health services where it's most needed.
Yes, but also Ali, you mentioned Azapo and Azapo honoring Dr. Abu Bakr Aswat year after year. Eh,
That's
But
right.
when one looks at other sections of society, when one looks at other political parties, when one looks at the ANC, for instance, because this was a political party that he had a very, very close association to him, how much within the ANC, within the ruling party, within the government, how much is he remembered? How much do they talk about Dr. Abu Bakr Aswat? How much do they inspire generations today who never lived through that era, who didn't know who Dr. Abu Bakr Aswat is, so that they could appreciate, so that they could acknowledge the immense contribution that he had made during those dark days of apartheid?
I'm quite disappointed. Our institute is very disappointed for the fact that a man that was larger than life is not really remembered in the manner that he should be remembered. Yes, of course. Uh, Last year he was honored with the Order of Lutuli in Silver for his contribution in a medical sense and for his humanity by the President Cyril Ramaphosa. But apart from that, I mean, the, the African National Congress is to be found wanting. It has simply honored a lot of its own cadres. It has still got to go a long way towards recognizing the efforts and sacrifices of people like Aswat and a lot of the others, ordinary people, men and women, and even youths who sacrificed their lives in this struggle to be able to achieve and win back our dignity. The organization, African National Congress, you rightly point out, has largely ignored all those people. It is for that reason that at the time when the Institute had proposed the naming of this road that links Soweto and Lenasia, that a memorial wall be built on both sides of this road. So on the memorial wall, we could remember all these people, the great people that contributed, who today are nameless in our society. And we need still to be able to put them up there so people can understand who they were and the contributions that they made. How can we forget what happened? How can we forget the sacrifices of the children of 1976? We remember them on June the 16th. That's correct. But what do we remember about the principled stand that they took and the issues that they represented? Are those issues, as we stand today, have those issues been addressed? those issues largely still remain lingering up there, where they are waiting for some kind of answers for people to be able to say, we have done this. It's simple to say that we have built so many houses. You can build as many houses as you want. That's your responsibility as a government. It is a calling on you. People have, you have been given a mandate to do these things. You need to go over and above that. And that's where they are being found wanting. They have not gone over and above that and not gone beyond that. Our community clinics are still struggling. What about
Exactly.
water and sanitation?
Mm. Also, Ali, you mentioned 1976, and it was at 1976 when Dr. Abubakar Asvat, the injured, the PI, those that were injured during the unrest that had taken place, the riots that had taken place as well, and he was right at the forefront. He was right in the heat of the moment, caught in the heat of the moment, attending to those who were injured at that point in time. So he played a
Yes.
major role during that time of unrest as well.
Oh, yes, quite certainly. He was very, very active. He was very much in the forefront. I mean, he defied the security police preventing him from entering the township. And he very clearly said that I am going to my surgery, I'm going to attend to my patients. And many of the people that were shot were treated by him on the site where they were shot, and even at the surgery where people were dragging people in. And he attended to every one of those people. It was not unlike Dr. Aswad to be called to administer to somebody who might have been assaulted while being taken to a police station or something. But yes, at the height of the 76 riots, he was the one man that stood there as a bulwark against the cruelty of the security police and the South African Defence Force. And it was for that particular reason. One has to understand that after that period, a whole lot um, of bad blood existed between himself and the security forces, where he was hounded, he was pursued, his home was visited in the dead of night, and a lot of times he was forced to be on the run. Now, the joke of it was that at the time, I think the security police came and knocked the door of the Asvat home and asked for him. And it was just the very simple and uncomplicated wife, Zora Asvat, Allah give her Jannatul Firdaus,
I
inshallah.
mean,
She opened the door, looked at these strange people knocking the door, and asked them what they wanted. And they said they were looking for Abu. And she turned around and said, but we don't have him here. In fact, you people are following him all over. You should know where he is. So, that's the kind of thing that one needs to remember. And one needs to remember that in Abu's time, he didn't worry about which political side you came from, whether you sang the songs of the ANC or whether you were from this party or belonged to that organization. When you were in need, he was always available. There were great people like Don Matera and the others who eulogized Dr. Asvat in their works, for example, in his poetry. And he can't be forgotten. On the 27th of January each year, these organizations have gone out of their way, the Azanian People's Organization and the Black Consciousness Movement. Needless to say, he was the head of the Health Secretariat in Azapo and a founding member of Azapo. And his influence to this day is being remembered. They produced a document entitled the Community Health Awareness Project, which was the awareness project which he took with him with his series of volunteers when they visited villages around the country to administer community health. That document, it needs to be published. It needs to be published widely and distributed to community health clinics and to community doctors all over the country to be able to understand what drives the deliverables of community health.
well, certainly, in fact, Ali, there is just so much more I think we can actually unpack in remembering and paying tribute to the late Dr. Abubaker Asvat, and I'm sure a lot of work still being done by the Abubaker Asvat Institute to ensure that his memory is not lost and that his legacy still continues. And for that, it's people like yourselves and others that are involved with the Institute, Alhamdulillah, to continue living this memory of Dr. Abu Bakr Aswad. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accept from you as well and the team as well. And we continue making dua that for his contribution, for his sacrifices, we make dua that Marhoom Dr. Abu Bakr Aswad, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala fill his qabr with nur and reward him immensely for the wonderful service that he's done to humanity at large, inshallah.
Inshallah. I would like to conclude with one little thing. If one takes a page out of Dr. Aswad's contribution, just in sports alone, one thinks about how our children are being denied the opportunity to be able to play the sport of cricket. The Abubaker Asvat Institute each year holds a junior cricket tournament, very much as an honor in terms of the legacy that it has to uphold, following in the steps of Dr. Abubaker Asvat and bringing the sport to those that are most marginalized. We don't only do this as a cricketing exercise. The cricketing exercise is an exercise in delivering the message of human rights and principles that are confined by using sports as a vehicle to drive that kind of change and that kind of message. Very clearly, one must understand, as we stand today, human rights is one of the things that is being talked about widely in every space that one talks about. Those are the human rights that people like Dr. Asvat and others like him stood up for. And we can proudly say that we are very happy to know that one of the things that we must try to promote very clearly is the spirit of self-reliance in our communities and the spirit of volunteerism. Today, more than anything else, the big challenge in our society is anti-racism. There is more racism in our society today, I believe, than there was during the time of apartheid. And it's a demon, a monster that we all have to get together and fight to the bitter end to ensure that we can all stand together as a united nation with principles in mind that are not compromised, with a state that's not captured, and also with our human rights intact, and to be able to ensure that the poverty that is meant to be have been eradicated is being, that kind of agenda is being pursued by all of us to ensure that poverty does not prevail in our country.
Well, Jazakallah khairan so much for that, and very, very profound in terms of what you've said right at the end, Brother Ali. But as always, we thank you. We say Jazakallah for taking time out and talking to us this morning. We wish you well. Have yourself a wonderful Jummah ahead, inshallah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. I thank Salam Media for the opportunity, and to your listeners as well for having listened.
Ali Osmany, board member and media spokesperson of the Abu Bakr Asvat Institute. We're going to go for a break. We'll be joined by Hamida Didat next, looking at the greatest strike of British workers in a generation.